Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Shan and today I wanted to share with you top 6 tips for buying a house. And I wanted to give you some background. So I've owned 2 houses in my lifetime, as in I've bought one, sold one, bought another one. I owned my first house with my husband at 21. I had worked from 16 till 21 full time, so that was kind of a decent amount of time to save up a really good deposit. We started looking for a house just as house prices started going up in the early 2000s. So when we started looking for a house, the average price of a house was around £60,000 in our area. And by the time we got a house offer accepted, the average price was £120,000. So we had to make huge changes in what we could afford, because that was obviously a really big leap. The first tip is that there is no set length of time to buying a house. I think sometimes if you buy a new build there might be like a shorter period, but our first house, it took forever. Everyone was in a chain apart from us, who were the very bottom of the chain, and at the top I think we had 5 people in the chain, and it took ages, and it ended up that we had to say, I think about 2 weeks before our completion, we had to say, look, we're going to pull out if this isn't going to happen by this date, because it was just dragging on and on and on and on. We discovered that solicitors can lie about things. That was not a very exciting thing to discover, but on our second house purchase, we managed to do from the date the offer was accepted to moving in being 6 weeks. That was pretty good. But on the first house we bought, it did take a really long time. Second time around, we were the only part of the chain. We were selling our house, but the people above us were moving into family accommodation, so there was no kind of technicalities. But that was with 2 solicitors working in the same company. It still took that long, even though we're both working in the same company on just down the corridor from each other. It did take a while to move that along. Number 2, a survey can make or break a purchase. We learnt this the hard way by making an offer on a house that looked absolutely amazing. Just also quickly, we put offers in on around about 20 houses and we only had 3 accepted. But the first one that we put in an offer that was accepted was a beautiful house, and then when we got the survey back, it said there was a landfill site really close by, and our solicitor advised us that it would not be a good idea to make that purchase. And we were devastated because we really loved the house. It was in a nice area. It would have worked for us. As it turned out, the house then had 40 new houses built right behind it, so the beautiful view that we were coveting wouldn't have existed. So I was quite pleased that we had pulled out of that one. So a survey can make or break your purchase. Don't assume the house purchase is final until the completion date, and you don't know what that survey is going to bring back that is not good or is great. You know, you might get back that it's a perfect house, perfect area, everything is fine, but you might get back some problems. Then you have to decide whether or not those problems are surmountable. Number 3, and this is a really hard one, try not to be emotionally attached to a house. I definitely learned the hard way. The one that got away from us was a sealed bids house. It was a 5 double-bedroom house, and it was 100, I think it was on the market at 99,999. We offered 115 and we didn't get the house. And it was a beautiful house in a really nice location. We could have grown as a family there. It was just me and my husband at the time we were buying, but it would have been perfect for a growing family. As it was, the house we bought just had 2 bedrooms, which meant we had to move out of it when we had 2 children, and they just didn't fit in anymore. If you're emotionally attached to a house, it's going to make it harder if it doesn't work out. I think you have to think along the lines of what will be when it comes to buying a house, and that things happen for a reason, and you have to go with that rather than, I love this house will be perfect. Picturing yourself living in the house, you know, it's really difficult not to be emotionally attached, but really try. Number 4, communication is a key to speed the process up. The first time around we used a solicitor down in London, and yet we were buying up in Yorkshire, and it made it all a bit complicated with solicitors. Obviously, because it was a large chain, it was always going to be complicated with solicitors. But the more you ring people and annoy them, the more they will actually be quick to get stuff done. That's certainly what we found, was if I was on it with the solicitor, just saying, right, what's happening with this, what's happening with that, then we were getting results, whereas if I wasn't, nothing was happening. So communication is essential. Number 5, get a mortgage agreement in principle. This means that the mortgage company has already signed off to say, yes, we will lend you this much money. This is important when you actually put an offer in and have it accepted, especially if you're a first-time buyer. It means you're ready to go because you've got that agreement in principle. A mortgage company can just sort the mortgage out really nicely, really quickly, and that's all sorted for you. I would definitely recommend looking around with mortgages because you can have some really high setup fees. Also, treat a mortgage a bit like a credit card, and you can change it every few years. When your deal runs out, change it and get a new mortgage with a new, different company, but with a better introductory rate. And you can also then lower the term as you go along, which is what we've always done with ours. So whenever we've remortgaged every few years, and whenever we've done that, we've always lowered the term that we were mortgaging it for, but increased our payments if we're in a position to do that. Another thing to note, you can put the mortgage arrangement fee into your mortgage. Don't forget that's then incurring interest, so it could work out costing you more doing it that way. Equally, if you haven't got the money, then it's a good way of doing it. Number 6, work out the true cost of moving house. This can be so much more than just the cost of the house. And I say just the cost of the house with a pinch of salt because, let's be honest, the cost of a house is ridiculous, which is why we moved up from London to Yorkshire, because we knew we could afford a house as opposed to just a tiny bedsit is what we were looking at down in London. So the true cost of a house, what is included in that? You've got the mortgage arrangement fee, which obviously you can include into the mortgage if you need to. You've got the valuation fee. This is generally between £200 and £300. You've got legal fees, which are £500 to £800. Obviously it could be more, it could be less. I think our first house, they were about £300, so it really wasn't too bad. You've got stamp duty potentially. We did, because we bought when stamp duty was even on £120,000 house, and there was no relief for first time buyers or anything like that. We didn't get the luck when we were buying for the first time. There's a lot more available to you now. You need to look into it. I will leave a link below, but there are loads of stamp duty calculators to work out how much it will cost you. If you're a first time buyer, I think there's no stamp duty up to £300,000 of a house that's worth £500,000, but don't quote me on that. That changes all the time, so that might not necessarily be true today. On top of that, you've got the price of the surveys. This can be really quite expensive. You've got removal costs. If you're going to pay for a removal company, again, it can cost quite a lot. The first time we moved, we had a removal company move us. I think it was only about £300, and it was really good. They moved us. Second time we're moving, they came to quote us, and they quoted £1,200 for exactly the same amount of stuff that we had in our houses before. So I hired a van. It cost £75 for the day. It was the biggest van I could hire without an HGV license, and I drove the van. It was brilliant fun. My husband and I worked really hard all day and packed everything up, so you can do that relatively cheaply if you need to. Also need to think about repairs. When we moved into the second house we bought, we knew that the boiler was on its last legs. It died the week we moved in. So straight away we had the additional cost of a brand new boiler, and the boiler then had to be moved because it was in the wrong place. So it turned out to be really expensive, especially when you've just shelled out for a whole house. And another thing to consider is furniture. The furniture that fitted in your old house might not fit in the new house. Again, we had a small 2-bed terrace, moved to a 3-bed terrace, and our sofa didn't fit through the door. We had to pay someone to take the window out of our new house and put the sofa through the window. And then when we moved out again, we obviously had to take the window out and move the sofa out the window again. Check your furniture fits. If not, put into that the cost of either getting your furniture into the house or buying new furniture. It definitely all adds up. I hope those tips have been helpful. I definitely wish that YouTube had been around more when I was buying a house. The first one we bought was in 2004 for our first home, and I really wish there'd have been more advice out there about buying a house. If you're buying a house, then good luck. I hope it all goes through, and I wish you well in your house buying adventure. I'll see you again soon. All right, bye.